Senate will come to order. Senators will be in their seats. The clerk will call the roll.
Alley, Baumgartner, Berger, Billinger, Boyer, Bowers, Denny, Dahl, Estes, Basquido, Fitzgerald, Francisco, Givens, Goddard, Haley, Hardy, Hawk, Hensley, Hildebrand, Holland, Kelly, Kirschner, Longline, Lynn, Masterson, McGinn, Olson, Peterson, Petty, Pilcher Cook, Pyle, Rogers, Schmidt, School, Solontrop, Sykes, Taylor, Tyson, Wagel, Wilborn.
Senators and their guests, please rise and give careful attention to the chaplain.
Please bow with me. Heavenly Father, this week, and particularly with tomorrow being Valentine's Day, help us turn our thoughts to the subject of love. A four-letter word that's saturated and dripping with significance. Lord, the idea of love is so profound and multifaceted that it's almost impossible to define. It's like your love for us, with so many layers and facets, and even though we know it's there and can feel it, it's just hard to describe. When you package your love for distribution, you send it under a variety of different labels. And we don't realize that many heart-shaped ways that you bundle your love until we look inside and taste of your goodness. We need you to help us recognize and appreciate the many ways in which you do love us, the ways in which your goodness overshadows our badness. Your love comes labeled as mercy, undeserving favor, forgiving our faults. When life is disappointing, it comes as hope for tomorrow. It's the unexplainable peace you provide in our times of sorrow. And Lord, because you have loved us with such an abundance, you've said in 1 John chapter 4, verse 11, that surely we ought to love one another. So Lord, let the love that flows to each of us flow through each of us, that it might be said of us that in this house the rules of love were never suspended. In the name of him who loved us to death, amen and amen.
Please continue standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the point of personal privilege, the chair recognizes the senator from Douglas, Senator Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Today I have the honor of welcoming 7 high school students to Kansas Capitol Senate today. The students here are seated in the gallery, and I'll announce them later who they are, where they're from. But these students represent 4 countries: Germany, Italy, Moldavia, and Pakistan. And they're spending an academic year here in Kansas learning about our country firsthand by living with us as a family. This effort is coordinated by the Council on International Education Exchange Program. The CIEE program is our country's oldest and largest nonprofit study abroad and intercultural exchange organization. Those various sponsored programs in which these students are participating here, including the U.S. State Department Scholarship Program known as the Congress Bundestag Youth Exchange, the Kennedy Lugar Youth Exchange Study Program, and the Bureau of Education and Cultural Affairs Exchange Program. Now, before introducing the students, I really want to thank the CIA local coordinator, Anita Sass, if you could just stand up, who works to place these students with families throughout Kansas. As I introduce each student and to know their country, if you guys could please stand, that'd be great. I do want to point out that I do have the privilege of introducing students from other senators' districts. One of the students is in San Francisco, and I believe 3 of them are in Senator Tyson's. So with that, I'll start the introductions. Alessandro Valtempi from Italy, and she is attending school at Free State High School in Lawrence this year. There's Saskia Nowak from Germany, and she's also too at Lawrence High. Then we have 3 students from Senator Tyson's district. We have Fritz Visser, Germany, and Matas Trar, Germany, as well as Sophie Simon. And then we have Yana Kustakov of Moldavia, and Pra Hader from Pakistan. And Yana's with Lawrence High School, and Pra is at Albany. So please join me, senators, and do a Kansas solo to these wonderful high school students.
Before recessing the caucus, are there announcements? Chair recognizes the Senator from Reno.
I'd like to introduce the Hutchinson Community College Student Government Association. It's here today with Benny Steckline on a tour of the Capitol and some visits with the various legislative officers. Let's give them a welcome.
Senator from Reno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to remind the body that tomorrow is Kansas Board of Regents Undergraduate Research Day at the Capitol. Undergraduate students from all universities in Kansas, Regents University, will be displaying their projects in the rotunda at the first floor from 11:30 to 1. So please stop by and see some of the fantastic research that's going on at our universities in Kansas.
Chair recognizes Senator from Stafford, Senator Taylor.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I would like just to take note that the group in the upstairs in the gallery would stand from Leadership Pratt. We have a group of, we have some Leadership Pratt people here. They are a group of veteran and new leaders that are on the Hill today, getting to know more about state government. Thank you.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hillary.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just would like to remind everyone about the Capitol Bible study tomorrow around 7:50 in room 142 South.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. In the gallery, I believe that we have some people, as I said, on the Oakland Park City Council with for years. And if you would, please welcome them.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'd like to remind the South Central delegation tomorrow's lunch meeting will be the topic of broadband. Broadband is such an important issue across the state of Kansas. We won't want to miss this meeting. Thank you.
Additional announcements before recessing for caucus. Chair recognizes Senator from Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We're going to recess here in just a bit, and at recess, the Senate Republicans will caucus in our normal room 548 South.
Chair recognizes Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Democrats will also caucus upon recess in our normal room 287 North.
Senator from Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Move the Senate recess to the sound of the gavel.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. The Senate is recessed. Senate will come to order. Please note reference of bills on pages 1 and 2 of the calendar. The chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Johnson County, Senator Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. The chair appoints a senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger, to provide over the Committee of the Whole.
Good afternoon. The Senate, having resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole, will now consider those items listed on the calendar under the heading of General Orders. We will now turn our attention to Senate Bill 199. The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Solentrop, to explain the bill and to adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There were amendments. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Senate Bill 199 was introduced in the Senate Committee on Federal and State Affairs at the request of the Kansas Chamber of Commerce on behalf of many businesses across the state. In our appeal bond statutes, we're somewhat out of sync with our surrounding states and many across the nation. What Senate Bill 199 will do is update our appeal bond laws to address the modern litigation issues where defendants are facing judgments where they can't afford to post a bond in the amount under existing law. And it currently forces them into a mode of acceptance and settlement as opposed to feel like they need to appeal the judgment and on their own behalf. So what it would do is it would establish a cap of $25 million. Currently it's similar to the $25 million limitation that's provided for the litigants in the master settlement agreement on tobacco. The statute provides for a trial court that may reduce the amount of bond judgments exceeding $1 million to $1 million plus 25% of any excess amount in $1 million. But the cap would not apply if the court found that the defendant is purposely dissipating assets or diverting assets to avoid payment of a civil judgment or likely to disperse assets so that they would be unlikely to disperse assets needed to satisfy a court. The first general bond cap is set at $25 million, again, much like the tobacco settlement. The reason that defendants can't negotiate for this is because of the cost of the bonds for these lawsuits when they are appealed and the court has rendered the judgment well in excess of $25 million or thereabouts. Senate Bill 199 would establish a cap of $2.5 million in the appeal bond limit qualifying for small business defendants. A small business defendant would be described as a business of 50 or fewer employees with a revenue of $25 million or less. We heard testimony in support of the bill from the Kansas Society of CPAs, National Federation of Independent Businesses, and the Kansas Chamber. Kansas trial lawyers were opposed to this, along with Folston and Siepken. But Folston and Siepken was agreeable to this compromise, and with the establishment of a $2.5 million appeal limit and lowering the revenue receipts from $50 million to $25 million so that more small businesses would be eligible. Also, the Kansas defense attorneys were in agreement with this compromise. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a few questions for the senator from Sedgwick. Bill, stand with him.
You will.
Is there an opportunity now for a business to get a reduction of the amount of the bond if they can prove hardship?
Senator from Sedgwick.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not quite sure that answer. I may need to call on the chair of the committee. Should have discussed hardship.
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilburn, would you like to address that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. There is some discretion. However, most of the cases have taken a maximum track to provide the legal ways of extortion, forcing the appellate to come to settlement.
Senator from Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, but I'm pleased to know that there is that opportunity if a business could show that there's hardship. Would this change because we're establishing a cap of $2.5 million for the smaller businesses, encouraging filing an appeal simply to run the clock, to add time to a court case, again for settlement?
Senator from McPherson.
Was that question asked to me, Mr. Vice Chair?
Senator from Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was asking the carrier of the bill, but I would be happy to get an answer from anyone who would like to give it.
Senator from Sedgwick.
You know, it doesn't provide that opportunity, but it also provides the opportunity for businesses to be able to arrange for an appeal within their financial capacity and prevents an environment where forced settlement or something of that nature is probably going to be much more applicable as opposed to trying to come up with an appeal to defend the claim.
Senator from Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the answers for these questions. I do have some concern because in this case, a judgment has been made, and I hope that that action was not taken lightly, but because of that action, would like to see those other individuals or businesses being able to collect what is due.
Are there other questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Senator from Sedgwick. Senator
Lynn Rogers. We have a lot of Lynn's in this chamber. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question to the senator from Sedgwick. Why did we pick $25 million as the limit for the small business when the original Alex bill was $5 million?
Senator from Sedgwick.
What we did was try to reach an agreement with all parties involved to address the issue that came before us. And those limits being set at this amount of $2.5 million seems to be an amount that they could all resolve their issues between them and come to an agreement.
Senator from Sedgwick. Senator
I'm sorry, I wasn't talking about the $2.5 million, but why we defined a small business as $25 million and under when the Alex bill was originally $5 million.
Senator from Sedgwick. Senator Solomon.
Again, the small business subscription is currently 50 employees and $50 million in revenue. And again, in negotiations to settle this issue, for all parties to agree to lower the revenue stream from 50 million to 25 million.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Rogers.
The follow-up question I have too is, how would you describe this bill as helping an average farmer or aircraft worker in Kansas? How does this help them?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Solstrom.
This is an appeals bond for small businesses in the event of litigation, a claim made against their business for whatever reason. I'm not sure that it applies to an individual.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Rogers.
Thank you, Senator from Sedgwick. I guess that's my concern, is if this does not help the average consumer, the average farmer or rancher that has a lawsuit, I'm not quite sure why it's important to change. I often have said that there are times where laws need to be passed and there's times where laws don't need to be passed. And this is an example where I don't believe current law needs to be changed. So I will be in opposition to this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator from McPherson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. The way this would help consumers or farmers is very simple. They would not have to put up all their collateral to purchase an appeal bond, whereby if the bond was like 10 million, if they did have 10 million in assets, to have a larger credit, that's what it takes to buy a appeal bond. So it helps the consumer, it helps the average farmer, it helps all businesses not having to comply with such an egregious statute like we had before.
Further questions for the Senator from Sedgwick? Senator Petty.
Thank you. With the Senator from
From
Sedgwick.
Wyandotte.
Stand for a question.
Yes, he will.
Could you share with us the reasoning for this bill applying to proceedings that have already filed prior to the effective date, and now they will be impacted by this? And these would also could be instances where superseded bonds have already been secured.
Senator from Sedgwick.
Mr. Chairman, I would presume that this would only provide a change going forward.
Senator from Wyandotte.
I'm afraid that's not true in the bill.
Senator from Sedgwick.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I would need to ask that question again, looking at the dates here. Perhaps our chairman may know that answer also.
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilbur.
Thank you. I do know that answer. That was an amendment made on page 4, lines 22. This is not retroactive, just going forward.
Thank you for the clarification.
Chair recognizes the Senator from Johnson, Senator Bolley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the Senator from Sedgwick, stand for the question.
He will.
Thank you. My question would be, could he explain what the trial lawyers were in opposition to, why they stand against this bill? Thank you.
Senator from Sedgwick.
I believe their concern was the limitation on the level of appeal bond. Again, allowing them to be in a position, in a more forceful position, to obtain a settlement. With the ability to lower the appeals bond level, the defendant has a greater opportunity to appeal to a higher court and have the case retried if they felt like they either didn't have evidence supplied or the judgment was not correctly rendered.
Are there other questions for the Senator from Sedgwick? Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When the committee rises the report, move the report, Senate Bill 199, favorable for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries. We will now turn our attention to Senate Bill 194. The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Kirshen, to explain the bill and to adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries.
Senate Bill 194 originated from the groundwater management district number 2. That's what includes north of Wichita and X beds north of there. What they did, they came to the committee last year requesting an increase in the statutory cap for the acre feet of water. The cap, the original one was $1.50 an acre. We wanted to raise it to $2 per acre foot. They cited budgetary constraints that the last 4 or 5 years was at the limit, would not be able to invest in water quality and water conservation programs that were coming down the road. So also we had some concerns from groundwater district number 5, who also was at the statutory cap and had the same concerns. We did, the original bill was, had some reservations from the city of Wichita and the Kansas Livestock Association and some of the other GMBs because they were not being included in the increase. However, over the summer and this fall, they got together and the issue revolved around 3 parts. It was the problem was that they were increasing the assessment cap for water used in district, the increased cap for water transported for use out of district, and an increase in the per acre assessment on land within the district. Once they got together and got the unifying language, they eliminate the differential between in-district and out-of-district use. They increased the assessment cap on all water from $1 to $2 per acre foot, and it makes no change in the history of the assessment cap of 5 cents per acre. There originally was an assessment of 5 cents per acre for non-irrigated land. So they all came to agreement on that, and they all signed on. We had all proponents, no neutrals and no opponents of the bill. And so we had unanimous agreement on that. And then once the levy was set at $2, every groundwater management district has an elected board, and they are required to have a public meeting every year so that the commission can bring the fee increase to all the membership. So they have that possibility. So we was pleased the way it turned out, and we did get. I wanted to read a response from the city of Wichita, which they sent to us after we passed the bill. And it says, while both considerations have significantly impacts on the city of Wichita, they both, more importantly, are good public policy. Uniform fees recognize the uniform underlying value of water. The ability to pay on water actually pump incentivizes conservation of the resources and wiser integrated resource management for those who have access to both surface and groundwater resources. So that acknowledgement from the city of Wichita was especially complimentary for us, and we were glad we could move the bill forward. So with that, I'll take the questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the committee rise and report Senate Bill 194 favorable for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries. We will now turn our attention to House Bill 2106. The chair recognizes the senator from Shawnee, Senator Schmidt, to explain the bill and to adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those no. Motion carries.
House Bill 2106 would allow nationally accredited providers through organizations such as the Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Service Facilities, also known as CARF, Council on Accreditation, or the Joint Commission to meet state regulatory requirements through their national accreditation. Many substance use disorder organizations are currently providing for or are looking to provide more comprehensive services to individuals receiving care in their organizations, including co-occurring mental health treatment and psychiatric services. National accreditation creates a platform for more organizations to develop services to meet the needs of individuals in a more integrated, cost-effective framework with fewer duplicative regulatory processes. This bill originally passed the House of Representatives 125 to nothing last year, and boiled down in a nutshell, it allows the treatment facility licensed centers to get accredited through those national accreditations and for the state to accept it. We did the same thing for the community mental health centers in 2016. And with that, I stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Shawnee? Seeing none, you may close.
I move that when the committee rises to report House Bill 2106 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried. We will now turn our attention to Senate Bill 343. The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 343 would authorize the State Board of Regents to convey by quitclaim deed 6 parcels of land to the state, to convey by quitclaim deed 1 parcel of land in Sedgwick County to Wichita State University. The bill would require all deeds and conveyances to be reviewed and approved by the Attorney General. These conveyances would not be subject to appraisals, bids, publications, title reviews, title insurance, surplus property statutes, or Regents land acquisition. This bill came to us by Wichita State University. As I explained in caucus, and you'll see, I hopefully have the map now. Wichita State had a golf course that they are now expanding into the Innovation Campus. Before that, the land was owned by Crestview Country Club. And they went to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General said, you know, it'd just be easier if he would just get this changed in state statute rather than us do all the paperwork and have to send it around to the different entities. It's about, we're talking about 8.27 acres that's currently not deeded to Wichita State of the 125 acres. A little something that's part of why we got here today is there was an era of time that that they would give the land either to the state of Kansas or either to the Board of Regents. So that was a policy back in the day. You're going to see this probably from other public universities. Wichita State already owns the land. It's just that it has to be either in the Board of Regents or it was in the state of Kansas. Wichita State is also used to be a municipal university as well. So that's why at one point in time we may have deeded it to the state of Kansas, and at one point in time we deeded it to the Board of Regents. And so you can see on the diagram that I handed out that, and so I didn't have a color copy machine, but you'll see the shaded area, and if you point your map to the north and look at the part I'll describe from the north, and you would look to the west down, and you'll see the drive that's going through there. It's that portion, kind of in the lower left quadrant of the map that you're looking at. We had legislation last year had to do with some utility work that they were doing, that we did this. We also had to clean up some stuff for NBAF for Kansas State University. Again, they already own the property. It's just a matter of cleaning up the title. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Senator from Riley, Senator Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a related question on this particular transfer of property from the Board of Regents to Wichita State University. And I did support in committee this transfer, but it raised a question after another article that was in the Wichita Eagle about, and I'll just read it. Officials at Wichita State say a new private school being financed by members of the Koch family is a good fit for the university campus. Chase and Annie Koch announced they're financing a new private pre-K through 12th grade school called Wonder on the Wichita State campus, the Eagle reported. And so my question relative to this is, and I highly question how appropriate a private school is on a publicly funded university campus, but what authority is K-Board giving up in terms of things like this, such as a private school, elementary school, or K-12 school being built on a campus or put on a campus when they transfer that Board of Regents authority to the WSU campus? Is the state and the taxpayer losing some authority over decisions about how that property might be used? So I'd like to direct that to the senator from Sedgwick if she'd answer that question.
Yes, she will. The senator from Sedgwick.
Well, first off, they're building these facilities on Wichita State property, and they're leasing the land underneath the buildings. The particular issue that you brought up about the private school is not even on this parcel of property that you're looking at all. It's in fact, I believe if I remember right, it is south of 17th Street and east of Hillside on property I believe used to be an old credit union that Wichita State purchased. So that is not, I mean, it may be related to a conversation you may want to have, but it is not related to this bill and the legal description that is in this bill.
Senator from Bradley, Senator Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a follow-up to that. Then the kinds of things that might go on this property, will K-Board have any say about that? I know the Innovation Campus sounds like a good project. What if there were some other thing on there that might be questionable? Would that still be entirely the purview of Wichita State University, or would K-Board have to give approval if there was some other variance of what might go on this parcel of land?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
I think what we're seeing today is something that they've been in the works for 3 years, but it's a public-private partnership of which Wichita State still has sole control and sole say over those buildings. Currently, right now, I believe they have an Airbus building built there. Airbus is operating that, and they are leasing that land from Wichita State. I believe there's a Starbucks, and then there's a Go Create building that was, I believe, paid for with outside agencies. So again, I think you're going to start seeing more public-private partnerships with the universities to try to answer the senator's question. I just revert back to that they're in their third year, and if that was perhaps a question, it wasn't brought up when they built Airbus, and it wasn't brought up when they built Go Create, and it wasn't brought up when they built Starbucks. So, and I'm sure there's another building or two out there that I'm missing, but that question has not been brought up to my recollection.
Senator from Bradley, Senator Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the senator from Sedgwick's answer to those questions. Thank you.
Are there other questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that when the committee rises and it reports Senate Bill 343 favorably for passage.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. The chair recognizes the majority leader from Johnson County, Senator Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carried.
committee report.
On a motion of Senator Denny, the Senate resolved itself to the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders, with Senator Billinger in the chair. Recommended, Senate Bill 199 be amended by the adoption of the committee amendments and the bill be passed as amended. Senate Bill 194 be amended by the adoption of the committee amendments and the bill be passed as amended. House Bill 2106 be amended by the adoption of the committee amendments and the bill be passed as amended. Senate Bill 343 be passed.
The chair recognizes the senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger, to adopt the committee report.
I move we adopt the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. Correction and approval of the journal. Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Madam President, the Committee on Transportation recommends Senate Bill 375 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Peterson, chairperson. Madam President, the Committee on Federal and State Affairs recommends Senate Bill 369 be passed, and because the committee is of the opinion that the bill is of non-controversial nature, be placed on the consent calendar. Senator Estes, chairperson. Madam President, the Committee on Federal and State Affairs recommends Senate Bill 307 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Estes, chairperson. Madam President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 296 be passed. Senator Wilborn, chairperson. Madam President, the Committee on Transportation recommends Senate Bill 274 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Senator Peterson, chairperson.
Are there announcements? Chair recognizes Senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been on the calendar for a few days, but I'd just like to bring to everybody's attention, the Tax Committee has 2 meetings tomorrow. One at 9:30, our regular meeting. We'll continue informational hearing on property tax. The appraisers and voter will be in to testify. But the second meeting is a joint meeting the Revenue requested with the Senate and Tax and House Committee to have a briefing on the differences and how the federal tax changes will impact the state tax revenue possibly.
Chair recognizes Senator from Cloud, Senator Bowers.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Ethics, Elections, and Local Government will have their meeting tomorrow morning at 9:30, 142 South. There are 2 bills on the agenda. We're not going to have the hearing on Senate Bill 394, but we will on Senate Bill 37. I'm so sorry, let me say this. We won't have a hearing on Senate Bill 370, but we will on 394. Thank you.
Are there additional announcements? Chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Johnson County, Senator Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. 2 announcements. If you haven't looked at the Senate group pictures back by Tony's office, try to do that the next day or 2. The deadline's quickly approaching. And then we'll be back on general orders tomorrow. We'll be working 3 bills. The bills are the following. House Bill 2232, Senate Bill 266, and Senate Bill 324. Senate Republicans will caucus at 8 a.m. on those bills in our room 548 South.
Chair recognizes Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Senate Democrats will caucus tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. in our regular room, 287 North.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate adjourn until 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 14, 2018.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried. The Senate is adjourned.
Join us back here at 11 a.m.